I grew up in the Crawford Hotel, and I had lots of fun there, but we also had fun down at the railroad station. And we would run barefooted in those boards. Oh, the splinters from the boards would go on our feet. And, Mr. Black, he was the manager there, and my brother did the paperwork, Clark Nicklow. And anyway, he would take us in when we'd get a splinter in our foot because we were barefooted and we shouldn't have been on those old boards. And he'd set us up on the desk and he would pick those out, and it really hurt. But I went back the next day and did the same thing. I liked playing there when there was a car sitting there empty, a train car. He'd leave us go inside and play in there too.
Now, was it going up to Kendall at all?
Oh yes, we only paid 10 cents and got to ride the train up and back. And when they turned around, they left us out, and we'd go there and pick the wild strawberries. We kids, sometimes we'd have a cup full, and sometimes only what we ate. There was one girl, if I had an extra dime, I gave it to her because she didn't have any money, and I pitied her. And the head of the train, what would you call him?
Engineer.
The conductor?
Engineer.
Okay.
Well, once in a while, I guess when he wasn't too busy, he'd come back and tease us all the time. Said, "What do you want to ride my car for every day?" And I said, "Well, that's the only place I can go except to my grandma's." We have to go to Addison to see her, and here we can just go to Kendall and pick strawberries. So he liked us, so he liked to kid us.
Right.
The whistles would blow, and we'd all got excited, even though we knew it every day when it was coming. And they'd stop there at the water tank and fill up the water onto the engine. I don't know what they did with the water, but they always stopped there.
And where was the water tank?
Right along the track. It was a big thing. So it was up in the air. Okay. I remember we were allowed to climb up that. I'm surprised Jean didn't. What else? It cost 10 cents to ride from Friendsville up to the end of the track. And when they took that out, we cried, we children, because that was so much fun. It was meant for us. Nobody else rode up to Kendall. They went to Confluence, and I did one time. We went all the way to Confluence, my sister and I. She married a guy, Mr. Mitchell, from Confluence, so I went down there with her to spend a week with her. That was Kate.
Yeah.
My sister Kate.
And Slats.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she married Slats Mitchell from Confluence. Uh-huh. That's right. Now they're all gone. I'm the only one left.
And did people come from Addison to stay in the hotel?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And
we had a lot of people stayed there. Teachers, we had 3 teachers at one time stayed there a year, until the summertime. And Mr. Miller, his home was from accident. He was a farmer's boy, but he was a teacher in Friendsville High School. And he lived there with us. My dad would take the drummers, they called them, the men that came to sell things in Friendsville, and he'd get a buggy and a horse and take them up to the countryside to the little stores or to meet neighbors, and that's how they got their business. And then my dad would bring them home, and then they'd stay overnight, and then if they weren't finished, then he'd take them out again the next day. And he liked that because he was in love with the horses all the time. He had them all named, and then he bought us a pony. And Dolly, we called her Dolly. And my ornery neighbor, she would throw water on our Dolly's back, and she would kick up and knock him down. And I can just see it yet today because the hotel sat up on sort of like a bank, and you went down over the bank and then onto the back, one of the back porches. And he would lay there and cry for a little bit or pretend he was crying because Dolly kicked him. That was Gene Skidmore, the boy. he was an ornery one yet. And then he married my girlfriend, and we were all in high school together. And he passed away then, and he used to play hide and seek and lay low sheepy in the moonlight. Did you ever hear of that?
No.
That was like hide and seek, but that's what we called it.
Lay
low in the moonlight. But Gene, the ornery neighbor and good friend of ours, he crawled up on the different buildings, little outdoor buildings, and he'd jump off of those and scare the other kids. But he fell one time, and they had to take him to the hospital and down to Cumberland. And anyway, we went to see him, and he was like a brother to me, even though he was so ornery. And that we had a good time. The whole Friendsville was our playground.
Yeah, and did you spend a lot of time playing in the river? And
Oh yeah, waded, and I tried to learn to swim, but I was too scared, and my brother would lay me on a board, and he would push that board, and then he'd slip the board out from under me, and he'd say, "Now you swim." I was the only one that was scared. Mr. Gonder from Oakland, Maryland, he made it into a theater, and my but Louise, who lived in Arizona when she passed away a couple years ago, she was the manager there. And then it was Alta, after Louise left, Alta, Shirley's mother. Have you ever met Shirley?
like what kind of movies
Oh,
did
it
they?
was wonderful. My sister won a brand new Plymouth car. She sold the most tickets for Gone with the Wind. Mr. Gonder saw to it that she'd have a new Plymouth, and she did. We traveled over to Addison and Confluence and all the little towns up to Accident, and even up to Oakland where he had the big theater. And she won the car because she sold the most tickets. Charlie Bill Friend had a
Turkey Bill.
Yeah, Turkey Bill.
Yeah.
They had a little restaurant there, and I would go in. The buildings, is it still standing?
Yes.
Is it? Mm-hmm. And his wife would have this. This was her part of the store, and she'd make us a sandwich for 5 cents. And I could get it at home for nothing, the same thing. And I thought that was nice because I went to a restaurant. And then I went home one day. Mom sent me to the store to get something, and I got it, and I got a cookie too. So when I got home, she said, "Where'd you get the cookie?" I said, "I got it down at Turkey Bill's." She said, "Well, did you have money to pay?" I said, "No. Those men that were all sitting there, they were all eating cookies. They didn't pay, so I just helped myself." So she took me back down and told Charlie Bill what I did. He said, "Well, Elenore, I think you could sweep my store for a week for taking that cookie." And that's what they made me do. I swept every day for him for nothing, for one little cookie. And I didn't go in that store for a long time after. Nickel or dime, I would go, and Mrs. Murphy would make me a chocolate milkshake for 10 cents. And it was big, and she always knew how much I liked them, and she'd put a little bit more ice cream in mine. And they had candy, then was a penny a piece. You could get a good piece of candy then for a penny. And she'd say, "I knew your mother must have given you more money this week because you're eating all my candy."